Hello, curious minds. Welcome to this intellectual journey where we'll delve into one of the most fascinating and complex labyrinths of 20th century thought. Today, we're going to talk about a man who was called the French Freud and who forever changed the history of psychoanalysis. His name is Jacques Lacan. He's famous for being incredibly difficult to read, almost hermetic, but his ideas are indispensable tools for understanding who we truly are. Prepare to question reality, language, and even your own image in the mirror. Before we begin, a brief but important note. To bring this abstract narrative to life, I've used artificial intelligence tools to generate the images you'll see next. Think of them as a dreamlike canvas, a way to illustrate the atmosphere of what we're discussing. These illustrations are not meant to be a literal historical representation, but rather an aesthetic visual accompaniment to let your imagination soar with me as we break down these concepts. I sincerely hope you enjoy this audiovisual experience as much as I enjoyed creating it. The big question guiding us today is radical. If we believe we're masters of our thoughts and desires, Lacan comes along to tell us we're mistaken. What does it mean that the unconscious is structured like a language? Let's find out step by step. To understand Lacan, we must first place ourselves in mid-20th century France. It was a time of intellectual effervescence where Sartre's existentialism reigned supreme, but something new was forcefully emerging. That something was structuralism. Lacan didn't want to invent a new psychoanalysis. Instead, he proclaimed a return to Freud. He felt that Freud's followers had softened his theory, turning it into a tool to adapt people to society. Lacan wanted to recapture the sharp, radical edge of the Viennese master, but this return to Freud was no mere repetition. Lacan read Freud through the lens of linguistics and the philosophy of Hegel and Heidegger. Imagine he took Freudian discoveries and filtered them through mathematical logic and the science of language. Lacan was a born provocateur. His seminars in Paris were legendary events attended by philosophers, mathematicians, and artists. He didn't speak to be easily understood, but to make his audience work. He said that misunderstanding is the basis of human communication. His style was intentionally baroque and convoluted. He believed that clear and direct language often conceals the truth rather than revealing it. To touch the unconscious, one must break the comfort of common sense. And that's exactly what we'll do now. Let's start with the first major concept that made him famous. It occurred in the year 1936. Lacan presented what he called the mirror stage. It's an idea that explains how our self, our identity, is formed when we are just babies. Imagine a baby between 6 and 18 months old. Physically, this baby is immature and dependent. They don't control their movements well and feel their body as something fragmented. It's a being of chaotic needs without unity or internal coherence. But then something magical happens. The baby sees themselves in the mirror or sees their image reflected in their mother's gaze. In that reflection, they see a complete, unified, and perfect form. They see a total self. This image is much more stable than what the baby feels inside. The baby identifies with that image with joy. Lacan says they assume that image as their own. It's the moment when the child thinks and feels for the first time that one over there is me. It's the birth of the ego or the self as a fictional unity. However, here's the fundamental trap. That image in the mirror is outside of them. It's an external image. Therefore, the self is formed based on another. We identify with something that is not us. From the very beginning, we are alienated in an image. This means that the ego is, by definition, paranoid. It is built in a tension between what we feel we are, that disorganized body, and what we see we are, that ideal image. We spend our lives trying to match that ideal image the mirror promised us. This mirror stage isn't just a moment in infancy. It's a structure that always accompanies us. Every time we seek validation from others, every time we curate our image on social media, we are repeating this mirror drama. The mirror stage inaugurates what Lacan calls the register of the imaginary. The imaginary is the realm of images, of appearances, of fascination and deception. It's where we believe we understand ourselves and where we believe the world makes visual sense. But the imaginary is only one of the 3 registers that constitute human reality according to Lacan. To be complete subjects, we must enter another, much stricter and more determining realm. We must enter the realm of the symbolic. The symbolic register is the world of language, of law, and of culture. Lacan says that human beings don't just inhabit a physical world, but inhabit a world of words. And here comes his most famous phrase, which we will now carefully analyze. The phrase is, "The unconscious is structured like a language." Freud thought of the unconscious as a reservoir of biological instincts and dark forces. Lacan radically changes this. For him, the unconscious is not biological, it's linguistic. To understand this, we must turn to Saussure's linguistics. Saussure said that a sign is composed of a signified, which is the concept, and a signifier, which is the word or sound. We usually believe that the signified is the most important. Lacan reverses this relationship. For him, the signifier has supremacy. The signifier is the material word, the sound, the mark. And these signifiers are not attached to a fixed signified, but constantly slide. Think of it this way. If you look up a word in the dictionary, you find other words. And if you look up those, you find still more. You never reach the final meaning. You just move from signifier to signifier. It's an infinite chain. The unconscious functions in the same way. It's not chaos. It's a network of interconnected signifiers. A dream, for example, is not a random hallucination. It's an encrypted text. It's a metaphor or a metonymy that speaks of our hidden desires. When we enter language, we lose something fundamental. By naming things, we kill the thing itself and replace it with the word. Language is a pact where we gain communication but lose the immediacy of life. Lacan calls this symbolic castration. It doesn't refer to anything physical, but to the cut that language produces in us. We are no longer instinctive animals. We are barred subjects divided by language. This divided subject is represented in Lacanian algebra as a capital S crossed out with a bar. It means that we are never totally transparent to ourselves. There's always something that escapes us, something we cannot say. We've seen the imaginary and the symbolic, but the third register is missing, perhaps the most unsettling of all. Lacan calls it the real. And be careful, because the real is not the same as the reality we see every day. Reality is what we construct with images and words to make sense of the world. It's a shared fantasy. The real, on the other hand, is that which cannot be imagined or symbolized. It is what lies outside of language. The real is the impossible. It is trauma, accident, pure horror, or extreme jouissance that leaves us speechless. It is that moment when the structure of our life breaks and we face something that makes no sense. Lacan illustrated the relationship between these three registers, imaginary, symbolic, and real, with a topological knot called the Borromean knot. These are three rings intertwined in such a way that if you cut one, all three come undone. This metaphor is crucial. Our mental health depends on these three registers remaining knotted together. If the imaginary comes loose, we fall into madness. If the symbolic fails, we lose our anchor to law and society. Now let's delve into the engine of our psychic life, desire. For Lacan, desire is very different from need. Need is biological, like hunger. It is satisfied with food and disappears. Desire, on the other hand, is eternal. Desire is born of a lack. Since we are incomplete beings, divided by language, we always feel that something is missing. We spend our lives searching for that object that will complete us and make us happy forever. Lacan calls this object the objet A, object petit A. It is the cause of desire. But here's the tragedy and the beauty. That object does not exist. It is an emptiness that we try to fill with things, money, love, success, purchases. No real object can satisfy desire because what we truly desire is not the thing, but to fill the original lack. That's why, when we get what we wanted, we often feel an emptiness or disappointment and move on to desiring something else. Furthermore, Lacan says a phrase that resonates powerfully: desire is the desire of the other. This has two meanings. First, we desire what others desire. Our desire is imitative and envious. We want what holds value for others. Second, and more profoundly, we desire to be desired by the other. We want to be the object that the other lacks to complete them. The child wants to be everything to the mother. The lover wants to be everything to their beloved. We want to be indispensable. Here enters the figure of the big other. Unlike the small other, who is my peer or my neighbor, the big other is the symbolic order, culture, law, language. It is that invisible authority that validates our existence. We often ask ourselves what the big other wants from us. What does society want? What does God want? What does destiny want? We live in anguish trying to decipher that enigmatic desire of the other. But Lacan has a final piece of news about the big other. The big other does not exist. That is to say, there is no final guarantee of meaning. The symbolic system is inconsistent. There's no one at the steering wheel of the universe ensuring that everything has a reason to be. Assuming the big other doesn't exist is the final step of a Lacanian analysis. It means stopping the search for answers outside ourselves and accepting responsibility for our own lack. It's a moment of helplessness, but also of absolute freedom. Let's return for a moment to language. Lacan introduced technical concepts like metaphor and metonymy to explain how the unconscious disguises its messages. Metaphor is the substitution of one word for another. It is poetry. Metonymy is displacement. We take apart for the whole. In desire, this is constant. We fall in love with a detail of a person, a look, a gesture, and that detail represents the entire object of love. Lacan also spoke of the law of the father or the name of the father. This doesn't refer to the biological dad, but to the function that separates the child from the mother and introduces the law. It's what allows us to enter society and not get trapped in psychosis. If this function of the name of the Father fails, if there is no cut, the subject can fall into psychosis. In psychosis, the symbolic does not function, and the real invades reality in the form of hallucinations. The psychotic has certainty, not doubt. One of Lacan's most interesting contributions to the clinic is the idea that the analyst is not a master who knows the truth. The analyst occupies the place of supposed knowledge. The patient believes the analyst has the answers. But the analyst's job is to frustrate that demand, not to give advice, not to console. The analyst acts as a blank mirror or an object A, so that the patient confronts their own discourse and discovers their own hidden truths. Lacan introduced short sessions. Sometimes he would end a session after 5 minutes. He didn't charge by time, but by logical moment. He would cut the session precisely when something important emerged, so the patient would leave thinking about it. This generated a lot of controversy, but it had an implacable logic. Breaking the comfortable rhythm of conversation forces the unconscious to manifest itself. It is in surprise and stumbling that the truth of the subject appears. Let's talk now about jouissance, or goce in Spanish. It's a difficult concept. It's not pleasure. Pleasure seeks balance and homeostasis. Jouissance is an excess. It's a satisfaction that hurts, a suffering that is secretly enjoyed. Human beings are the only animals who can derive satisfaction from their own symptom. We repeat destructive behaviors because, on an unconscious level, we derive a jouissance from them. Psychoanalysis tries to dismantle that deadly jouissance. Lacan teaches us that love is giving what you don't have to someone who isn't it. This cryptic phrase is beautiful. It means that we love from our lack, offering our vulnerability to someone we idealize but who is actually an ordinary person. Advancing in his teaching, Lacan became more mathematical. He used topology and knots because he believed that verbal language sometimes failed. He wanted a writing that could not be misinterpreted, a complete transmission of the subject's structure. The ethics of psychoanalysis, according to Lacan, can be summarized in one question. Have you acted in accordance with your desire? It's not about doing whatever you fancy, but about being true to your inner truth without yielding to society's pressures to conform. Antigone, the Greek heroine, was for Lacan the supreme example of this ethic. She sacrificed everything, even her life, by not giving in on her desire to bury her brother. She was unyielding to the law of the city, a heroine of the real. Lacan also analyzed the gaze. The gaze is not just what we see, it is feeling ourselves watched by the world. When we see a can floating in the sea, that can looks back at us. It returns our own intrusive presence in the landscape. We live in an age of digital exhibitionism, where the gaze of the other is constant. Lacan would say that we have become slaves to the image, feeding the big other with our data and our selfies, desperately seeking to exist. But remember, the image is a trap, the self is a fiction. True freedom is not in building a better image, but in traversing the fantasy. In understanding what role we are playing and deciding if we want to continue playing it. Traversing the fantasy means seeing that the scene we repeat in our lives, that script where we are always the victim or the misunderstood hero, is our own construction to protect ourselves from the real. It's painful but liberating. Lacan was expelled from the International Psychoanalytical Association. They considered him a heretic. He founded his own school, dissolved it, and founded another. He was always in motion, always questioning institutions and his own students. His oral style was hypnotic. He spoke with long pauses, sighs, untranslatable puns. Reading his écrits is a monumental intellectual challenge. It requires patience, like deciphering an ancient hieroglyph. But the effort is worth it. Lacan gives us tools to understand feminism, politics, art, and advertising. He helps us see how capitalist discourse exploits our lack, selling us objects that promise to fill us but never do. Capitalist discourse rejects castration. It tells us that everything is possible, that you can have it all. Lacan would say this is a social psychosis. Denying limits and impossibility leads us to exhaustion and depression. Accepting the lack, accepting that we are not complete, is paradoxically the only way to be at peace. If we accept that total satisfaction is impossible, we stop torturing ourselves chasing it and begin to enjoy small, partial jouissances. Lacan died in 1981. His last words were, "I am obstinate." And he certainly was. He maintained his search for the truth of the subject until the very end, unyielding, unsimplifying, demanding the utmost from himself and from others. Today, his ideas are more relevant than ever. In a world of fake news, liquid identities, and artificial intelligence, the question of truth, language, and what makes us human is urgent. Artificial intelligence, for example, is pure symbolic. It's a gigantic network of signifiers. But does it have an unconscious? Does it have desire? Does it feel lack? Lacan would say no. AI has no body, no jouissance. It doesn't die. That's why AI can imitate language, but it cannot truly speak as a subject. There's nobody home. There's no barred subject behind the screen, only statistics and probabilities. Lack is what makes us human. We have come a long way. From the baby in the mirror to the Borromean knot. From linguistics to jouissance. Lacan is a deep ocean, and today we've only dipped our toes in the water. But I hope the water has felt stimulating. Understanding that we are being spoken by language, that our desire is an enigma, and that reality is fragile, can be frightening, but it also gives us tremendous lucidity. It allows us to stop being puppets of our unconscious impulses. Psychoanalysis doesn't promise conventional happiness. It promises to transform neurotic misery into common unhappiness, Freud said. Lacan would add that it promises to know how to make do with your symptom, to learn to live with that strange piece that you are. Don't seek to be normal, because normalcy is a statistic, not a human reality. Seek your own truth, your own style of jouissance and desire. That is the ultimate lesson from the French master. If you felt lost at any point in this video, don't worry. Lacan said that if you understood everything too quickly, you hadn't understood anything at all. Disorientation is part of learning. Keep this idea in mind: the unconscious is the discourse of the other. We are an echo of the words said to us, of the desires projected onto us. To analyze oneself is to separate our voice from all those other voices. Jacques Lacan challenges us to awaken. To awaken from the dream of everyday reality and confront the real. It's an abrupt awakening, but necessary for anyone who wants to live an examined and authentic life. His legacy lives on in clinics, universities, and critical culture. As long as there are human beings who speak and suffer for love and desire, Lacan will have something important to tell us. Thus, we close this chapter on the Lacanian worldview. We've tried to untie the knot without cutting it. I hope these ideas resonate in your heads and help you look in the mirror in a new way tomorrow morning. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. I know it's been intense, but real philosophy always is. Thank you for your time, your curiosity, and your desire to know. If this video has made you think, if it has challenged you, then it has served its purpose. Don't forget that the conversation continues in the comments. I'd love to know what concept blew your mind the most. Subscribe for more rigorous and fascinating philosophical explorations. Like the video if you enjoyed the journey, and share this with anyone you think needs to question their reality. Until next time, subjects of desire.